No, it hasn't happened.
Oh my.
What? No, it hasn't happened.
Oh, it hasn't?
No.
Oh.
He's making so many babies I can't keep track. He's 3 ahead or 2.5 ahead of me.
She's
Still planning on it, Richard.
Start to rain.
No, he might be.
Below, 10.
I might be playing. I'm just practicing.
Get out, get that back up.
Okay.
And then in the morning I get up and I said,
Well, we have 3, so that's a quorum.
well, you know,
All right.
no breakfast meal.
Damn it.
Quiet on set.
That's what we should get you, Ed, is one of those.
A big.
I have one.
You do? You should bring it, it would just add.
I just used it. You didn't see it.
What's it?
Yeah.
What are those things called?
That was good.
We get a look.
Doesn't matter, I'm calling the meeting to order.
Adding follow stuff through.
Tuesday.
You just want one too, Carl.
Yeah. Tuesday, September 23rd. Meeting comes to order at 5 p.m. Changes to the, or additions to the agenda. Tamworth Conservation Commission is going to have an easement proposal. Is there any urgent public input before we get going?
You said urgent things you can't talk about.
If it's not urgent, keep it till later. Okay, new business. Tamworth Conservation Commission, easement proposal. Ned Beecher.
Ned, you get instant gratification.
Oh, that's really nice, thank you. So this is a preliminary sort of report to the select board about the proposed easement that the Tamworth Conservation Commission has been approached for. Nelson O'Brien and June April on Bunker Hill Road are interested in donating easements on 2 parcels they own there. One is about 34 acres, one is about, or 32, and one is about 20 on each side of the road, right near the bend in the road, which is near their house at 900 Bunker Hill Road. The Conservation Commission's Conservation Land Review Committee has considered the easement donation and assessed the value of the conservation for the protection of that parcel and for those 2 parcels, and has decided to move forward with it, or recommend moving forward with it, and has done preliminary site exploration of both parcels with the landowners, and has had discussions with the landowner about the details. And before we go any further, we always want to check in with the select board to see if this is something that seems likely to be supported going forward, because before we get into drafting the actual conservation easement document and putting in more work than we've done and beginning to incur some costs, there will probably be some survey costs for us in the conservation fund. The easements will be donated, but the transaction costs, as often happens, are something that we've agreed we would cover from the conservation fund. So there'll be several $1,000s of likely some survey costs and recording fees and town lawyer review of the easements. So I think I've provided a little bit of a summary that so you've seen some of this and the benefits that we've identified, but I'm here to see what you think and if you have any questions.
So I'm just trying to visualize it. So this is from Nelson's house up to the power line, and then from June's house back behind to hit up against Jackman.
It's behind, the second one is on the south side of the road.
Oh.
The opposite side of the road of the first one.
Mm-hmm.
As you mentioned, there's one lot, there are 2 lots there. One is June's house, as I understand it.
Is the White Cape.
It's back in the woods away from the...
Nelson's,
that's
Nelson's back
Oh,
in the
that's
woods.
Nelson,
Yeah.
so I'm thinking Nelson's, yeah. The White Cape property's not involved. The one next to it is Nelson's first lot that has his house on it, and then this is next to it, which includes the power line cutting through it.
Right.
And it's a sort of a north-south rectangle. And the power line cuts through it diagonally, and it fronts Bear Camp, the
Bunker Hill.
Bunker Hill Road. between essentially Nelson's Drive, a little ways up
Yeah.
from Nelson's driveway and up to the, is it Honeywell is the next
Yeah,
property with the red house. So that would be the northern of the two lots, the
Okay.
larger one, 32.5 acres. And the power line is a little bit confusing, but likely we will, it will be included in the easement in order to ensure that if the power company decides to abandon it at some point, then that would still be the landowner, who would still be whoever owns the whole parcel, would still be underneath the easement. So in other words, we want to include it in the easement so that if that were to happen, they can't build a house suddenly on that power line right away. But the right of way for the power line obviously gets precedence. It's
Right.
grandfathered in, whatever. And the second parcel is kitty corner, actually. They sort of are like this, with Bunker Hill Road going between them. And that southern parcel is 20 acres,
Oh.
considerable amount of wetland, some buildable area on both ends of it, or both sides of it along Bunker Hill Road. And it reaches around the corner essentially. It's about an even distance around the corner there. And the value of it in particular there is, besides the wetlands which fill a stream that goes into Jackman Pond, it also abuts other conservation land
right.
to the south, and both of them are part of this north-south corridor, wildlife corridor for the white ospreys initiative.
Thank you.
The acreages that you have here, 34 plus and 20 acres, is that the acre of the whole lot or the proposed easement?
The 20-acre piece the whole lot is 20 acres and the easement will cover the whole lot.
Okay.
So there'll be nothing unusual there, no difference between the boundary line of the lot and the boundary line of the easement. On the other one, the landowner is proposing, or they are proposing, holding out a house lot in the southeast corner of that, which is frontage on Bunker Hill Road, and sort of up towards the Honeywell house more than down towards Nelson's house or June's house. And that would be a 1.5 acre holdout, so that would mean about 32 or a little less than 32 acres would be in the easement.
Do you know if either of these or both are in current use currently?
They are
Both
in
are.
current use.
Okay. And I think that's important to note, just because if they are in current use, if an easement is put on them, then the tax difference is
Yes.
about zero.
Right, if they're in current use, then the tax difference is minimal and nothing, and if they weren't, then that would be a different story.
Right. So you just want us to say, ooh, red flag here or question there, and that's it right now?
Yeah, I just want to have a heads up if there feels like any, issue, then we would want to put the brakes on and not go into doing a bunch of work organizing the, drafting the easement documents themselves. There'll be two different easements because the landowner configuration is somewhat different on the two, so it'll be two separate easements. But we'll draft each document. We're focusing on having it be pretty much the same terms on both, so that when it comes to monitoring them and making sure they're being taken care of, it'll be easier to have it on that bigger acreage rather than having to have differences. There's no reason for differences. And then once we get an easement draft, then it goes to the lawyer, and that's where we really begin to incur some costs, which we would want to avoid if it seems like it's not going to be supported. But the select board are the ones who make the final decision on agreeing on an easement, along with the Conservation Commission. As we found last week, Carl and I signed these documents, at least at this point, so the chair of each of the Commission and the Select Board sign the document, so the town has, there has to be a vote to accept it on both the Conservation Commission and the Select Board. So we wouldn't want to go ahead if it wasn't likely to have support.
One thing that might be useful is, I've been to a few Conservation Commission meetings, and I recall there's some criteria that you use to determine when a property meets certain values that make it useful to gather an easement.
Yes.
And I don't know if we've looked at that lately, so it'd be good for you to send us that just to remind us what some of those criteria are.
Yeah, we can send you the value assessment that we've done, the Conservation Land Review Committee has done for this project. And it talks about the values of each of the lots and how they're different, what the topography is like, that kind of thing, and why it gives the rationale why it's thought to be useful to conserve the land.
If you could send that to Emily and then she can send it to us, that'd
Yes.
be great.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds good to me.
The one on the south side of the road is unbuildable anyhow, isn't it?
It's not unbuildable. There is probably one house lot on the northeast end of it.
Yeah.
It's a little bit higher. The south, and there's a lot of wet with the stream crossing there and wetlands in there.
Well, I don't see why you couldn't, do we need a motion, or do we just have to say,
Just
keep going?
a sense of the meeting, does
Yeah,
it seem likely that it would be supported, and we'll proceed, and, if something comes up, obviously, we're not holding you to it, and, but if something comes up, we'll reconsider, but for now, we'll proceed with final negotiations with the landowners and come up with a conservation easement draft.
When was the last conservation easement that got brought in front of the?
The last one,
I'm trying to think of
It was
like.
the ones over off,
Same road, probably.
no, it was off
Bryant Road?
Bryant Road.
Or near beside the Bear Camp
Back in
River,
there, remember we talked about those lots?
out past George Smith's field.
It's 3
Over on
lots
Christmas
maybe.
Tree Farm.
Year
oh,
ago,
that
2
was
years
a
ago.
year ago, that
Yeah.
was the, up on, past George Smith's, north of George Smith's, that was off Bryant Road. That was, but we just actually had one signed last week, that was the White House property, former Scott Aspinall
yeah.
property up on,
Yeah.
north of Cleveland Hill Road, that had been in the works for a year or so, and, at least, and that finally got signed and recorded, and in fact, it's probably in the mailbox, the final copy of it, which I will make copies and provide to the town.
And I'm curious, with the planning board that did the build-out analysis,
Yeah.
does the Conservation Commission and the planning board work together to see like
We have discussed,
what's buildable and,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. So I think an issue that comes up we hear often is, housing is obviously needed a lot right now, and so we want to have a balance between conservation and of wildlife corridors and such, and good housing lots. So we do turn down offers. We do tell some landowners that we're not interested if it's in areas where we think building is more appropriate, and we don't want to preclude that. That's why this sort of western corridor, western Tamworth, eastern Sandwich corridor of connectivity between the Whites and the Ossipes has been a priority, and probably our biggest priority. That, and going back even farther, the priority for the Conservation Commission was protecting shorelines of streams and ponds and such. But those are really, we're sort of narrowing. The town has a fair amount of conserved land with the state forest and White Lake State Park and such, so we're not feeling like that needs to increase a whole lot. But we would like to see that sort of puzzle of the unfragmented forest going up the west side of Tamworth and eastern Sandwich have long-term protections for animal and genetic passing.
Do we have them come up like every year recently? I mean, do we sign up on conservation easements every year?
I feel
Pretty
like
much there's been one,
I feel like the
One each per
Bryant
year.
Road one was the first one in a long time.
that was the first one in quite a while, yes. It had been, we had a flurry of activity in the 2000s up till 2010. That's when the Bear Camp Farm on Route 25, the Floyd property was protected, and but again, that was part of sort of this understanding of the White Dog Space Initiative, and that was where that really got started.
We were having all those conversations about Coral Lake properties that
Yeah, no,
ended up
I
different.
understand that, but I would, this is, I guess I do kind of understand the difference in that.
Yeah,
I just didn't realize, like, I probably should pay a little bit better of attention. I'm honestly like, with the amount of conservation land in Tamworth, I'm like getting to the point of being in less support of it, just
Yeah.
with like the next generation coming up being so hard to afford housing and
right.
everything else, and seeing like, I mean, it's almost impossible unless you've got help from somebody to build your own house or anything like that. I mean, it's next to impossible around
Right.
here, so I'm like starting to get to the point where I do like the idea of conservation. I mean, I think it's a great thing. I just like, at what
Yeah.
point do we stop, because you're locking it up
Yeah.
indefinitely at that
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
You know,
And it's a good discussion
Yeah.
and something that we, as I said, we hear regularly, and there's, we've put some of our rationale on our website, on the land conservation pages there, and have continued to sort of look at research on, and understand what other people are doing too. And it's coming up in other towns as well,
Yeah.
so the idea, I think, we're hearing it very clearly, and we have heard it in the past, that, there's been this trying to strike a balance. So, we're aware of that, and we've discussed that around this particular property, these two properties in particular. And the idea is still that the really cool thing about this particular area near Jackman Pond and a little to the east is, if bear studies and other research has shown that it really is used as a connectivity between the Whites and Ossipes. It's because there's a lot of big forests, and there's only 4 besides Route 25, which is the major obstacle for animal crossing, and that's where we get a lot of moose hits and things like that in the past. After they get across Route 25, though, they have 3 other dirt roads basically to get across, and those are pretty quiet roads. So it is serving already as a pretty good connectivity, and we think that should continue long term.
And how many, you said you get requests from people, or people come in to talk to you about putting their land under some kind of conservation protection. How often do you think how many of those do you get that you say no to? Like what's the frequency?
I'd say we get 1 to 2 people talking to us a year,
Oh,
bringing up the idea, or it could be 1 to 3, something like that. And I'd say every other year we're saying no to somebody. Sometimes they also don't follow through the conversations, or they go somewhere else. Part of the conservation picture is that we're not the only ones that get approached. In fact, often it's Lakes Region Conservation Trust or the Forest Society, which own lands as well as have easements on lands throughout town, and they act differently, have different strategies and priorities than we do, and we don't have any say in what they do, although we collaborate on stuff. So the town is often the last resort in a way. Those other organizations are often talked to first by landowners for whatever reason. I don't know exactly, but often if it's a larger parcel, they'll go to one of those organizations. I guess because they are formal land trusts and they have more resources perhaps, and can maybe actually purchase something.
Pay some money for it, yeah.
Pay some money for it. So we tend to get some of the smaller pieces, like these are on the smaller size.
And if Audubon or LRCT or somebody is working with somebody to put their land under easement, they don't come through us.
We might collaborate with them, help them with fundraising, we've done that in the past, things like
Yeah.
that. But we're not involved legally in the,
So there's no sign-off mechanism for us, only when it's being
Right.
held by the conservation
so
commission.
that's, yeah, exactly, that's a landowner, private
Mm.
conservation trust thing, so, it comes down to the landowner. The landowner can find somebody who will take an easement usually, so that they may not have the same, when we hear about a project like that, and they ask us for input and stuff like that, we might say to them, I can remember one time saying this, like, well, that's in an area of town that we don't see a real, it's not our priority areas, so we're not really interested in necessarily supporting that. And so they may go ahead or not, but we may or may not help them if doesn't fit our priorities.
And do other organizations take the same sort of balanced view that the Conservation Commission is around the wanting to maintain some wild integrity versus things like Emery's been bringing up, like housing availability, or
Not necessarily their missions are
They're just a mission
focused
driven,
on
yeah.
conservation. They may take our suggestion that, they listen to that they, that we think that's not a priority and not necessarily the thing. But if the landowner really wants to do that, that's their choice, and they go with whoever will take the easement. Sometimes, yeah. But though conservation value, I should say also though that we share the same kind of conservation values with those organizations. So again, if it was some 20-acre property, I don't know, somewhere they would score low in terms of its conservation value, they'll walk away from it too. They're not going to spend time and money on conserving, even if the landowner wants to, the landowner may just not find somebody who will take it. And that happens.
Thanks for explaining the process.
Yeah.
Onward.
Onward.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll continue with this and we'll bring it back at some point.
And see the scoring mechanism.
Yes, I'll forward that to you,
that'd be
Emily, for consideration. Yeah,
Thank you.
Thanks, Ted.
sure. Thank you. Appreciate your interest.
See you later.
Yeah.
Next, we will have a transfer station improvements update from Richard.
Richard, do you want me to share my screen
Yes.
and get it up there? Okay.
For our members of the audience, if you'd like to have 11 by 17 hard copy, stare at it. So on the screen now is the site plan. That has not changed since a couple weeks ago when we first saw it. I did meet today with the road agent to talk about potential tree clearing. He agreed that the highway department could do the tree clearing. He said we might want to budget for the gravel. What I'd like to do is, once we get to the point where we put the building, a recycling building out to bid, that the site would be prepped and bidders would only have to bid on building a building, not preparing the site. So we'll figure out how much the gravel would cost, and if we need to, we'll talk to the highway department again, but that meeting happened today. And I've asked HEB for some estimates on the volume of the gravel. So that site plan has not changed since we saw it a few weeks ago. So if you would go to the other, the handout that I just gave you I got this from the architect a couple hours ago. This is the state of the design of the building, which is very early. So upper left is the front view. This proposed building would go where the brush pile is, and the bottom right is the back view. We had a meeting with HEB and Alba Architects last week. And one thing that came up was, The original idea was 3 really large garage doors, like 18 feet wide, and then double bays within each one for recyclable materials and balers. And what they determined early on was, if you build a building with 3 huge doors on one side, the building is very weak inherently. There's no structure on the front of the building. So if it got really windy, the building could rack. So what they're proposing is 2 big wide garage doors, and then on the end, where the balers would go, is a smaller garage door, and that gives you some structure to put, to provide enough structure to keep the building from racking in heavy winds. So that seemed to work. So if you look at the next,
What's the length of this again?
it's 60 feet by 24 feet deep.
Thanks.
And so here's the interior. So the top of the screen is the front of the building, so you can see 2 big wide 18-foot by 10-foot high garage doors, and then about 9-foot wide bays for recyclable materials. So people would drive up, get out of their car, put their number 1 plastic, number 2 plastic, cardboard, paper, aluminum cans into those bays. What I would propose would happen is, and it's in the budget, is to have big, what are called tilt carts. Big plastic carts, and people put their stuff in there so that the staff can look in there and make sure it's the right stuff. Particularly when it comes to plastic, it's going to be a real learning curve for people to know which plastic goes in which bay. So the staff early on will have to do some sorting of that. So you'll need, at least 1 person in that building early on to make sure it's all working the way it needs to. And then the material doesn't go in the pile until you're sure that it's the right stuff. But then it just piles up until you have enough to bale. I've had conversations with New Hampshire Recycles, which is the new name for the NRRA, they've rebranded themselves, on the volume of loose material you need to make a bale, and we've sized all the bays to fit that. So that you can glance at the pile and have a sense for, is that enough to bale? Because it depends on the stuff. Aluminum is a much smaller pile to make a bale, whereas number 2 plastic, because most of it's air, is a big loose pile before you think you have to bale it.
So you mean that's what those white lines are across at different depths?
Yep,
That's
those.
to show you it's full when you hit that line?
No, I think what those are is we've talked about making fairly low wooden structures so that the loader would come in and push the stuff to the back of the wall, and this would be a wooden thing to shove up there so it doesn't constantly spill out to the front.
Okay, so those are just in different spaces randomly
Right,
for the
random.
Gotcha.
But they've all been sized for the largest volume you need, which is number 2 plastic. You need just over 30 yards of space,
Okay.
which is a lot. If you look at the what's called the baler room, that's where you have a smaller door, and that extra wall provides some strength for the building. And both balers would go in there. What would probably happen is the way they do it in Ashland is, when people come with cardboard and paper, which I think will come in at a higher volume than other things, is they go right in the baler. Either the public, which is what happens in Ashland, or the staff here, puts the stuff right in the baler as it's coming. You don't toss it on the floor and then scoop it up. It'd be hard to scoop up paper and cardboard. Like we do with cardboard now, it goes on a table. And usually Ernesto, he's the king of cardboard, I think, just stacks it up. And it would go in the baler immediately, because I think those things would be baled pretty quickly. And you just have to watch the other items, and when you think, that looks like it's about enough to be baled, you make sure the baler is soon going to be available. And then, on an off day, you use the skid steer or the loader to scoop this stuff up and start loading the baler and make a bale. Because then that baler is going to be tied up until you have enough material in it to bale it.
So you scoop it up, go out the door, outside, and then in the other door?
In the other door, and the skid steer or the loader tips it, and you get the stuff into the baler, and you just keep loading it until you make a bale. Once you press the button and make a bale and finish it, it ejects the bale on the floor, you vacuum with the loader with forks, you lift it up, and you bring it over to the storage area. So that's just the current early design of the building. And then the next page shows another view of the same building. We had the meeting with HEV and Alva last week and asked them to have the design done by the end of October, so that we can bid it out and see if we can afford to build it. My goal would be to get the bids all in hand before Thanksgiving. Then we'll know before December if we can really do this. It also gives you December if something goes wrong to try to fix it. Something's wrong with the bids, you get no bids, you get high bids, maybe you can scramble around and make something happen in December. So my hope is to have the design done on the building, to bid it out by the end of October, have bids in by Thanksgiving. Somewhat simultaneously what's happening is, and I think the decision for tonight is, there's no decisions on the building right now, is we also need balers for the building, a loader to move stuff around, and containers to put things in. So I've drafted requests for bids for 2 balers, a skid steer or mini loader, and 4 containers. And those, you have hard copies, and it was emailed to you, unfortunately, about 2 hours ago, so it was last minute. So I've been working on the request for bids for a couple weeks now. I've got a lot of input from 2 companies that sell balers. One is in New Hampshire, one's in Georgia. The one in Georgia was recommended by Lake Region Planning Commission, and they have like 100 balers on their lot right now in Georgia. And they have some that are, they have a number that are used and some that are new. So the request for bid for balers does provide 2 examples of the type of balers. And it's pretty, it's the request for bid would include an attachment of those 2 manufacturers of balers, and that's the color things that I think you might have in your.
Sorry.
We didn't get
Printed them
those.
wrong.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I thought I printed them wrong.
Doesn't matter.
That'd be great.
These are your standard vertical baler. It makes a bale that's 5 feet wide.
And is Ashland using vertical? Or
Yep. They have 3 vertical.
three vertical? Yep.
One is dedicated to paper. One is probably cardboard all the time, and the third one is probably everything else. And they load them immediately as the paper and the cardboard comes in. Other places, like Ospey has 2 vertical balers. I don't know how often they use them at all. They have a ginormous horizontal baler because they get so much cardboard from Green Mountain Furniture. It's like a $120,000 item, the horizontal baler. And that price and the space that it takes up is why we're not proposing that. So the 3 requests for bids in front of you are one for balers, one for the loader, and the others for the containers. So the 3 steps are, collecting the material, baling it, and then storing it. The loader was I've learned a lot about loaders in the last 2 weeks. Most transfer stations have skid steers because they're small and they can fit in the space. And for a fairly small piece of equipment, they have a lot of horsepower. They can do a lot of things. Ashland had a mini loader, and I was surprised that nobody else did. But it turns out it's really hard to find a mini loader sure enough to fit in a container. The container is only 8 feet high. It turns out the door in a container is only 7.5 feet high, and that's why nobody has mini loaders in containers. Ospey tried one once, and it was too tall, so they went for a skid steer. I spoke to TJ last week. It turns out there are 2 mini loaders that will fit. And so those are the mini loaders that are called out in the request for bids. One's by Bobcat and one's by Wacker News.
Did you end up calling Volvo?
I didn't call Volvo. Do they make?
They have a mini loader and they can offer a low profile tire that would be to 8 feet. The guy, the guy would pay Russ. But the guy also said that it might be, if you were considering focusing on a mini loader, it may make more sense to get the 9-foot storage container,
They make a thing called a high cube. Yeah.
Versus the 8 foot, because then you could open your horizon more to
Yep.
different.
Other equipment,
Yeah,
yeah.
but
I looked at the high cube and I wonder if, because I don't think we're gonna have a lot of volume to then commit to the cost of the high cube and the mini loader. And I almost just canceled the idea of the mini loader and just went with the skid steer because that's what everybody does, except for Ashland. But then I found at least 2 models that'll fit in a standard container.
So would you say low
Those-
profile?
yeah, they
Are
offer
those solid
a lower
rubber?
profile tire.
Is that a solid rubber tire? I think that's what they had in Ashland, wasn't it?
They have foam filled tires.
Oh.
And I think in this environment, you need airless tires.
I think it might just be a smaller diameter tire
Okay.
potentially. I'm not sure.
I hadn't contacted Volvo because I just assumed they didn't make that, but I'll do that tomorrow. That's good to know. So I provided some examples, but really what matters is, can it lift an 1,100 pound bale and turn with the tipping weight? And can it fit in that space that's less than 7.5 feet? And anybody who can meet that criteria, we should look at how much it costs and how well it works. The thing that we learned from Ashland, and that I was not aware of initially, is a mini loader, I guess, always comes with a steering wheel. A skid steer has joysticks. Steering wheel is easier to drive. So that's kind of, could be very useful as how easy it is to drive.
But the mini loader also has 0, I mean, you can pivot.
A skid
Yeah.
steer,
I mean, skid steer.
you're right.
Yeah.
I think
So a skid steer can fit and turn in a very tiny space.
I think actually you'd be surprised at how easily learned a skid steer is compared to a lot of equipment. Even though they're joystick, even some of the newer, bigger loaders are actually joysticks now.
Yeah.
But they're, I'd almost argue that they're probably easier for a new operator that hasn't operated equipment before than
Yeah,
than a mini loader,
articulated.
and there's no chance of like tippiness or anything like that. The only thing you do lose is a lot of visibility with the skid steers versus the mini loaders.
You lose it.
You lose
Because
a lot
you're
of
lower,
visibility. Yeah,
or-
because you can't see. I mean, a lot of them have cameras now.
Mhm.
Well, probably all of them have cameras now, and a rear view mirror, but you really can't see your sides well or behind you. And some skid steers have better visibility than others, where you're still sitting down into it
Yeah.
versus up above where you can kind of see 360 easily.
Yep. Yeah.
Did, in taking into consideration like the turn radius that they have to be able to fit to get into the balers?
Yeah. I want to try to get the spec sheets for some of these to see, do they have one that shows the amount of room? I think the exact position of the balers has to be contingent on how the equipment works.
Yeah.
Like, you'll see the baler is pushed back in the baler room. I think they all have to be shoved forward so you have room when you scoop a bale to then back up and turn at the same time. So I mentioned that to HEB is the exact position of the balers will be determined later. And if we have to put them both on the back wall, so you pull straight in and then back straight out, then that's what we're going to do. Because we need to make sure that there's room in there. We can't build a new building and start backing into it.
Oh, someone will.
So I think it's really handy to have some options, but then we will have in front of us apples and oranges, and we'll just have to figure it out. One thing that I put in the skid steer mini loader request for bids, and I think I'd like to tweak it slightly, is to, during the bidding period, have Brian, the transfer station supervisor, demo the equipment. Because you're right, what I think it was from Caterpillar I talked to, it used to be harder to drive a skid steer because they had weird joysticks. Going forward and back was one joystick, and left to right was the other joystick. And now the joysticks is forward and back and turning with one, and then other components with the right hand. So I think the joysticks have gotten better. So I think they are easier to drive now. So I think what really matters is, what does Brian think? Because he's driving the thing.
Yeah.
So what I want to do is maybe change that one sentence in the mini loader that during the bidding period, Brian will have, before they submit their bid, before we have to decide, Brian will have gone and demoed them, or they will bring the equipment to Tamworth and we'll try it there. There are a number of people that want to bring their equipment to you.
Yeah.
I met with the Kubota guy in the parking lot this morning and said, I'll bring it tomorrow if you want. So I think they'll be highly motivated to make sure the demo happens. The bidding period for the loader is, and for all the equipment, is fairly long because it's almost a package deal for us. We're going to decide on the building and the equipment kind of all at the same time, because then we'll have all the prices in. So we're giving the equipment longer lead time just because I finished it now, and HEB is still working on the design, but it gives Brian a chance to schedule the demos. And if he says, I love the skid steer, then we should probably go that way. If he says, I love the mini loader, if the prices are similar, then we should probably go that way. Buddy?
Can I use this piece of equipment for plowing as well as?
They could. One of the reasons that I think the mini loader has additional utility is it could maybe do other things, whereas the skid steer might not. I think you get more functionality with the mini loader. You could get bigger buckets, you could move more snow, you could put a big snow blower on the front of it. But you could probably do some of that with a skid steer as well. So I was really intrigued by the mini loader when I saw it in Ashland, but I realized that the one they have in Ashland won't work for us because they don't store their bales in a container. They store it in a tall hoop building, so they don't have the height restrictions that we have. We don't propose to build a hoop building. So working inside a container, that really became your limiting factor. And I just realized this a couple days ago. And that's why Ossipee started with the mini loader, and within a couple days they sent it back. And they got a skid steer, because it fits in a small space. So that was important stuff to learn. And any equipment would have airless tires and forks and a bucket. And I think some versatility in the equipment is important for us to do other things like move snow or move other things, move big heavy air conditioners for all we know around in the site. I've met with or spoken to a variety of vendors for skid steers and mini loaders. So I would propose, if the board agrees to issue the RFPs, bids, to email it to all these individuals, and it'll be about a 6-week response time, so plenty of time for them to respond and for Brian to try things out.
And add Volvo to it.
Yep, and I'll give Volvo a call tomorrow and make sure that if they make something that's compatible, that we add them to the list.
So you need a motion for the,
Volvo to issue the request for bids for
yeah,
a skid steer / mini loader and balers and containers.
so moved.
Second. Roll call vote.
Did you say yes?
There, yes.
Price, yes.
Roberts, yes.
Thank you,
Wow,
Richard.
that's a lot, Richard,
That's-
thanks.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, Richard.
One other thing that I'll add to the conversations, I think it was the day after we met with HEB, Emily and I had a conversation with USDA.
Oh, yeah.
And it was nice to get some good news on this project, that we have a grant from the USDA we haven't tapped into yet. It's 35% of the project, whatever we present to them, capped at $493,000 or something. And they told us that equipment purchases are very easy to do using their money. Construction is very cumbersome, but equipment purchases to tap into the USD money requires less process than we would probably do anyway. Just try to get 3 quotes. That's very basic, good accounting practice. So I think for the baler and the containers and skid steer, mini loader, or any other equipment we have, it'd be fairly easy to get 35% back from the USDA. For the mini loader, it's when you take delivery. For the equipment that would go in the building, they would probably wait to see that the building is under construction. And you've probably bought the equipment before, but as soon as they see the building's under construction, they'll give us 35% back for the equipment that's going in the building. So that could add up to $40,000 or $50,000 and make it just much more possible to afford all of this. Who knows what we're going to afford until we get prices, but that was really good to hear. And we'll continue to keep the USDA informed to make sure we're doing it right so we can tap into that money.
I'm gonna share my screen again too. I had recalled that a few, it was a while ago, Maureen Diamond actually had requested that we put together a summary of transfer station improvement projects. This was a 3-year warrant article, so it's been, a lot of, there we go. So, I put this together. If it's helpful, we can add it to our website if you think there needs to be more information. But this is just kind of a summary of what the taxpayers approved in 2022, put into motion by the select board at the time, and our progression to date. So these were the appropriations, kind of where all the money came from over the last 3 years. These were the priority projects identified by the Transfer Station Improvement Committee. So the first phase, which was the bathroom, well and septic. Second phase is recycling, which reduces hauling and increases revenue. This is just like a glimpse at the budget. The warrant article explained it was not to exceed 1.4 million. So, and we were to apply for a 35% USDA reimbursement grant for construction and or equipment up to $493,570. We received $125,000 from the Tamworth Foundation. A couple years ago, you folks voted to commit $100,000 worth of ARPA funds to this project rather than raising it in taxes, which was a remainder of $698,380, which were taxpayer dollars. Some of that was from the unassigned fund balance. Some was raised each year. This was just a glimpse at the USDA grant requirements, which basically told us we had to use engineers for the building design, which, if you recall, we ended up building kind of something that our budget couldn't afford. So we basically scaled the project down. We did a bathroom addition, and now the recycling phase. So just a real glimpse at kind of the project progress. We did the secondary compactor, we did the bathroom addition, and now we're doing the recycling facility. This is the final phase of the project, as Richard just kind of reviewed. Conclusion, and then the design. So if you folks are okay with it, I'll add it to our website.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank
Is there
you.
anything that's missing?
So,
Nothing?
wow.
Okay.
And I think there's, unless somebody's constantly watching our meetings, they may not
Right.
be hip to what's been happening. But probably it's the one topic that we probably talked more about in the last 6 months. But unless you're here, the general public doesn't know it. So having that on the website is very handy.
Okay. All right, so I'll add that to the Transfer Station Improvement Committee page on the website.
Anything else on the update?
I don't think so. No.
Then we will go to health insurance options. Emily will lead the conversation.
Sure, I'm going to share my screen again. I realize now I don't think I did it last time. Sorry, folks. All right. Okay. So I had, hopefully that's better. I'm glad, Willie, you're here too as a former select board member, because I don't know the whole history. We've been with Health Trust as long as I've been working here. Health Trust is a risk pool. I understand that the interlocal trust was another risk pool that the county was actually part of, and when that dissolved earlier, this year, what ends up happening is the members are responsible for paying whatever claims the group as a whole ends up owing, which kind of woke a lot of us town administrators up to just pay attention to what's going on, shop around a little bit. I won't get health trust rates until October 7th, so it makes it a little tricky time-wise. I'm not asking for a vote or anything tonight, I just kind of want to start discussion. I was approached by the Baldwin Group, which is not a risk pool, it's a private insurance company. And just looked at our rates compared to health trust. So this is all based on current rates as of 2025. The exact same plan that we have now, which is Anthem, Blue Cross Blue Shield. Health Trust, this number in red is the premium that's due to insurance. This is for our current full-time employees. The town contributes 90%, the employees pay the other 10%. Part of that amount, what I have to budget for our health reimbursement account and the flexible spending account is $16,000. So that number in green is basically what we could or could not end up spending, depending on how many of our employees have claims that year. So some of it we might not spend, but some of it we do. So this is the amount that I have to budget for every year. On the employee side of that, so that's the employer contribution side. The employee side, we have a deductible. So as a family, you know, I can speak for myself, a $3,000 deductible, right? Depending on how many times me and my kids end up in the hospital for the year. The town pays $500 HRA per person, and then I have my $500 FSA, but I'm still on the hook for $1,000 worth of my deductible after those employer benefits kick in, which, you know, is affordable but not nothing. And these are the rates right now as they currently stand, monthly, annually. So that's health trust at a glimpse. What the Baldwin Group was able to offer us was a higher deductible, lower premium plan. So $206,243 to the insurance company. Of that, $34,713 is the amount, that's the deductible amount. So that's the amount that we could potentially either pay out, but it's very unlikely that every single employee would need to meet their deductible every year. So it's the amount you could save and roll over. There's an administrative fee with the Baldwin Group, but so this is the amount, $220,038 is the total budget. Now, the higher deductible, which would be 100% paid by the employer, that's also up for discussion, right? Like the town could decide, no, we only want to pay for half the deductible. But the benefit to the employee would be you are not responsible for your deductible anymore. There isn't an HRA or an FSA, but the rates are also a little bit lower. So when you compare the two, you know, on the Baldwin Group side, the town and the employee are both saving money. But I did reach out, you know, I've been asking everybody, like, can anybody weigh in here? What am I not seeing? And I haven't had much response. I even reached out to Bob Seston and June Aprilli, because I'm like, you guys are my financial gurus. Like, you know, what do you have to say about it? And they both they don't have any health insurance background, so they didn't feel comfortable weighing in. So I'm talking about this with you guys, but I'm also asking for public input if there's something that I'm not seeing. But this seems to me like a savings that is worth considering. I can speak kind of on both ends. As the employee, if you told me my whole deductible is loaded on how the Baldwin Group does it, is it's a prepaid debit card that can only be used for your health bills. So, but if you told me that my whole deductible was on that card, that would make me feel a lot better. And if my monthly rate was down, you know, 10%, that would be great too. And as the employer side, you know, as the town administrator budgeting this, I like to save $28,000. So, questions, like input?
So I guess if we had an older workforce and everybody got sick or injured,
Right.
then we pay more of that 34,000. That's the most it could be depending, based on the number of employees
Yes, if everybody used their whole deductible
in 1 year.
in 1 year, which is extremely unlikely, that's how much it would be. And I just wanted to see, I
Yes,
think there were a
really.
couple comments.
The one question I have is, the insurance company, do they select where they'll pay? I mean, or is it the same company that we have presently, just through a different vendor?
Right, same company we have presently, different vendor.
So you wouldn't have
Same.
to change hospitals and doctors and all that stuff?
Right,
Okay,
same,
that would be a big,
yeah, same in-network, you know,
Okay.
out-of-network issues, but yeah, same coverage.
I recently did something with my homeowner's insurance. The premium went up like more than half. So I went for a higher deductible to get the lower premiums. So, because the monthly is what I know I have to pay. So it seems like it might be worth trying. Do we know if other municipalities nearby, if they're using the Baldwin Group, or if everybody has Health Trust, or what do we know?
Yeah, most people have health trust. I did, I'm forgetting the name of the town now. I chatted with their town manager because they made the switch. And he said he was really happy with it. They have 30 employees, so he said if he could go back and redo it, he would have done more. They offer, just like Health Trust does, these education, you know, sessions where they can come and talk to you and explain the program. He said he just would have done more of that. It's typical that, you know, not to be sexist, but most men, your wives, are the ones that are, you know, dealing with the insurance end of things. So inviting spouses to come to these sessions is a good idea. But he hasn't had any complaints yet. So, and I think it probably takes some time to show the real savings year over year. Just so you're aware, on average, right now, that 16,000 that we budget for everybody's HRA and FSA, we only tap into that about 3,000. So we're not using, we're knock on wood, all pretty healthy. So we're not using our insurance as much as like you said, if we had a bunch of older folks who had a lot of claims.
So the current plan is the $1,000 deductible paid for by the employee. These numbers are based on the town pays all the deductible.
Right.
So is there a plan whereby we would still have a $1,000 deductible for the employees?
With the Baldwin Group?
Yes.
You could, yep, you could say, the deductible is the deductible, it's 3,000 or 6,000, but the employer could say, we're only covering half your deductible, or we're only covering 1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And would that would change the premiums?
Yeah, it would lower the premium a little bit. Yeah.
Can we see what that looks like?
Yeah, I think
Like
it's
that.
yeah, and I mean this will all come more into like that first week of October once I get rates from Health Trust, and the Baldwin Group. It's like I said, it's Anthem, so they'll all get their numbers at the same time. But I wanted to kind of start this discussion and genuinely get some public input because I'm trying to learn more about this and see maybe there's some obstacles maybe that I'm not thinking of, and because December comes quickly when all these are up for renewal and there's a lot of like paperwork leading up to it, so I just want to get this on the radar.
Yeah.
Becky did have a comment. Sorry, I'll go back here a little bit. Gabrielle, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize I wasn't sharing my screen properly when we were doing the presentation, so I will make sure that gets on the website, and you guys can take a look. And then Becky, you said the industry standard for most employers in this state, including municipalities, is 20% employee contribution and a $4,000 deductible. Plus employee contribution to HSA is around $3,000. That's okay. That's interesting to me. I thought that most municipalities, contributed at least 80%. Oh, are you saying 20% employee contribution?
right.
80/20.
So 80-20? Okay, yeah, and when we do 90-10, yeah.
It would be good to know at least the surrounding towns, how does our deal compare to theirs?
Yeah,
Because I think that's the competition for our employees.
right,
Not what's happening in Concord, but what's happening in Sandwich and Albany and Conway.
yeah,
So it'd be helpful to know, just when it comes to at least the 90-10 versus 80-20. I mean, 90-10 is a great deal. Personally, I've never had that deal, but
That's a public school deal, it used to be a public school deal.
yeah.
mm,
But it's good to know how common that is just nearby.
okay,
You also need to compare the salaries. So
Yep.
that you're,
Yep.
you know, because I mean, we may give a little better on the insurance.
But
Maybe we'll pay them a little.
lower
Salary.
salaries, yeah.
You know, so you
But
gotta
that's a good
make
point
that
too.
balance work somehow.
right.
And it feels like if we've been offering 90-10,
Why
then it
would-
doesn't make sense to go backward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That, as an employee, that would be hard.
Yeah.
As the person
It's
doing
easy
the
to
budget,
give
I love
extra,
that
it's hard
idea.
to take away.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Especially if we're shopping plans to save taxpayers money anyway, while still maintaining that.
Right.
you know.
Yeah, I mean, right, the Baldwin group, I was kind of like, where, I mean, you were part of the meeting, Richard, I'm like, what's the catch? Like, I don't understand, we're saving money as the town, but also the employee, like, we have a better deal on their end too, so. I think, so again, if there's anybody out there in the public that is like a health insurance expert and wants to chat with me, I would welcome that.
One thing I thought was really handy too is whenever we had questions on the phone call, the woman from the Baldwin group, she had the answers every single
Yeah,
time.
she was really good.
And I know from my time working in government, I needed some training whenever there's any kind of a change to whatever it had to deal with, particularly when it comes to insurance. And they were very open to having those trainings, have everybody come there to make sure they all know how it works. Because it's confusing as hell. It
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah,
Particularly for us old folks that use our insurance.
right, right. And I would think that being part of, you know, if we were a huge organization, being part of a risk pool, I think would make a little bit more sense, but where we're such a small company, I don't know.
Yeah. We're
So-
small and our employees are relatively young and aren't tapping into their insurance much, so
Right,
they're feeding off us in the risk pool.
a little bit.
That's what it comes
And
down
we're
to.
equally responsible if,
Right.
like the interlocal trust, if it went under everybody who's part of that. So anyway, all right, well, stay tuned, I guess more on that later.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman? Yes.
Wouldn't it be nice if they had a consultant, a municipal insurance consultant that is not fiduciarily connected to your, that way you could talk to somebody that can tell you the whole field, so you could better make a decision which
Yeah.
one to go with. Because, you know, what I'm hearing just from my observation on you is that you're going by what the Baldwin Group said, but you don't have, you can make your own comparisons by going to the other towns, but it'd be good if you had an industry consultant. Of course, they would probably have a fee, but at least you would,
Yeah.
you could make a better decision.
I had tried that with the New Hampshire Municipal
I was gonna ask
Association.
about them, yeah.
Yeah, well, I think they're partners with Health Trust.
They are.
So they told me to seek counsel from our,
Elsewhere.
yeah, they couldn't weigh in on it. So there was that, but.
it's kind of too bad.
Yeah,
But that's, I mean, that's a good point too, that seems like a service that would be used by a lot of towns.
Yeah.
And they have it for energy.
Yeah,
The county uses a company that does that,
yeah,
yeah.
that gets them the best price for their delivery of service.
yeah. Okay.
All right, we're gonna move on.
Quick.
Yeah, to the 2025 MS1.
So this is just, it's like the only thing in the signature file tonight other than meeting minutes. It's a document that our assessor prepares. It's the valuation for the town, which is $735,906,312. So you folks just motion to approve this. I uploaded to the DRA portal, and that helps the DRA give us the information we need to set the tax rate in October. So, that's that. So I just need a motion to approve that. You can do it later in the signature file if you'd like. One thing I am gonna be doing this year, if you guys like this idea, is, there's a calculation we can do for each item, each warrant article item. where you take the amount raised, divide it by the total valuation, times it by 1,000, and it tells you how much of your tax rate pays for that specific thing. And I just, as
That's
a
a good-
taxpayer, I feel like that's really,
That would be handy.
You mean for each line item in the budget?
not each line item, but each total. So like the total
Okay.
we do for public safety, or
Yeah,
the
yeah.
total we do for general government. So each warrant article would have that.
Cool.
Sound good?
I mean, somebody is often in the audience calculating that, saying, that's just gonna cost you less than 3 cups of coffee, pay for it.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
have it right in the doc would be nice.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, 2026 proposed budget review.
Yeah, and my good intentions of having the schedule posted well in advance is like totally out the window because every week something is changing. Code compliance we can't really talk about yet until we know more about what's going to happen with that
Yeah.
discussion, which is another day. And welfare, Paul couldn't be here tonight, so he'll be back later in October, so we'll put that off till then. But just the health officer budget, I printed out for you guys, is on the website. It's super minimal, so not much to discuss unless you guys have questions.
I like the -9%.
Yeah,
Neat.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a pretty easy one.
Easy, right?
Yeah.
Are there any more trainings Michaela's interest? I know she did a spate of them when she first took the position.
Yeah. I don't know.
Has she talked about anything, or, I mean, I know she's probably been focusing on finance for a
Yeah,
while.
she's been super busy the last couple weeks, and I wanted to keep that there just in case, if it does become too much, she's doing a lot. So I wanted to keep that there in case it ended up, we needed somebody else or.
Oh yeah, I don't think we should take it out. I just was wondering if she had talked about anything new, because the last time she gave her report,
yeah.
it was like,
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot.
yeah.
No,
Okay.
nothing new that I know of.
Can you state what the total of her budget is? For the budget?
800, proposed for 2026, $896.
For welfare?
This
health.
is health
For
officer.
health.
Wouldn't it be great if that was the welfare budget?
That's not gonna be
Yeah,
the
right.
welfare budget.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Administrative report.
And
It's all
keep
you,
going.
Emily.
all I got is the account balance, which is $3,337,281.
Okay. And select board update,
I
but you've already done it.
already done mine.
Yeah, and I have nothing.
I like this.
Sorry to,
Oh, you're gonna
Well,
do a
you really
long
are.
one?
it's not gonna be that long, but it is interesting and it's relevant and it's time sensitive. So, last night at the Lakes Region Planning Commission Commissioners meeting, we talked about the largely land use regulation changes with the 2025 legislation. Wow, so many. So,
Trying to make it easier for people to build houses I think is their intention.
I think that's the intent. There's definitely a pro-housing push that'll have different impacts even for us. So my plan is, we had a really long PowerPoint. The PowerPoint's is going to be on the LRPC website if anybody wants to see it. It's also on the, oh my gosh, I can't remember what this all stands for. BEA-OPD, Business something executive. Anyway, it's the business arm in the state. Their website also has a big page for these changes. So I'm going to sift through them, read the actual RSAs, and then I'll report out what the select board needs to know about the new legislation. The planning board's going to have a bunch to deal with. So that was interesting, but also interesting is that the Gasset hearings are going on right now, and I referenced those last week. That's the Governor's Advisory Commission on Intermodal Transportation, and these hearings happen every year. And the hearings are the step where, as I understand them, where the Executive Council, like DOT, presents the 10-year plan. The Executive Council weighs in on it. That's where the funding gets, like, appropriated or approved. And as I said last week, the DOT is 400 million in the hole for this year alone. The 10-year plan is like 1.3 billion in the hole. So they're really encouraging all people who care about state infrastructure, transportation infrastructure, to reach out to your executive counselor. Ours is Joe Kenny, and give whatever our 2 cents might be. One thing that was really driven home last night, Mark McConkey was there representing Freedom, and he was just pointing out that New Hampshire we're at like 70% below the national average for our toll rates, and our, it's not called a gas tax, it's got a different name not to call it a tax because we're New Hampshire, but our gas tax is like 39th lowest in the country. And the statistics say that if the 3 tolls that are just like the Massachusetts border tolls, Salem, whatever the 3 are down there, if they raise their tolls $1, it would cover the 400 million a year. So what LRPC, what a lot of legislators are asking, anybody connected to DOT is saying, please call your executive counselor. You can go onto a portal, I think it's on DOT where the gas at hearings, there's going to be a portal there after each hearing. There's a calendar of where they are. You can go in person if you want to. There's going to be one in Conway in early October. But there's also a portal you can put your comments in there if you don't want to call or write to Councilor Kenny in person. So that was depressing, but with a little hope of action that you can do. Then the other thing is just a reminder, I was trying to get out the word about the visioning and listening session next week, and I kept forgetting like kind of key details, like, oh, where is the location of these things? So I'm just going to state it tonight. As a reminder, Monday night at 374 Tamworth Road, which is the old Ken Forst property. Before that it was the Rose Mill. It's map 202, lot 35. Almost right, it's right across from Remick's hayfield that abuts Depot Road. Monday night, 5 to 7, we're going to be there. People from the planning board will be there. People from LRPC, from an architectural firm, and we'll have maps of the property. So people who want to actually walk down by the river and kind of walk around the property to see what the feel of it is can do that. There's going to be an landscape architect there who's going to have some schematics already sketched out that show things that have already come up in these conversations, like when we had the brownfields hearing. Like somebody brought up solar, so it's looked like where could a solar array be on the property? Where could a public safety building be? Where could a park with a walkway along the river be? And then he's going to have an interactive element where people can come, look at the maps, and say, well, this is what's important to me in Tamworth. How could housing fit on? And he's going to make notes and whatever. We're also going to have dinner offered there that's going to be provided by the planning board. So if people just have to come from work or after picking their kids up from sports or whatever, they can come have free build your own taco. And Tuesday at the board meeting, Mark, the landscape architect, is going to come and then present the rough ups of, just so we can have a visual of what the townspeople have said they might like to see on that land. And so that'll be at 5 o'clock for people who want to come in person. They can Zoom in, chime in. And it's just a reminder that this is the last step in the brownfields process, paid for by that brownfields grant that we've been engaged in. So it's not costing the town anything other than the taco money, which is part of the master planning money appropriated for last year. And it's also not committing the town to a thing. So this is just one chance that we had to run this visioning session so that we can get people's input as to what they think is important to have on a big parcel of land in town. at some point in the future. This is not like, oh, let's float a bond for our fire department tomorrow, or let's put a 15-story housing unit. It's not us committing to anything. But it's gonna be interesting and fun, and I hope a lot of people come, and that people spread the word, drive your neighbor, do what you need to do to get people here. If people can't be there, I would say too that if they want to email me or email Emily, we can share your 2 cents and see how he sketches those in too. That'd be fine. Now I'm done.
No update from me.
Okay.
Decisive.
Uh,
No baby.
Any public input?
Becky asked, did the town ever send anything to Sheldon Perry thanking him for all his years of service to the town of Tamworth for serving as chair of the planning board?
The planning board I know did, and there was a party held for him.
Yeah, we keep them thanked.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I've been to 2 goodbye parties for Sheldon, but one, we didn't host it.
The select board did, yeah.
This is.
Whoa.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
sir.
Huh, so,
Is that Maureen?
Maybe text a comment. It's some weird reverb.
yeah,
Is this now?
that's
better.
better.
I'm very sorry, we have 2 devices on, and I apologize.
Oh,
Maureen, and thank you very much for those figures, Emily. I'm embarrassed to admit that I don't remember when I made the request. But I do, I am someone who tunes in often, and I couldn't put it all together without your help, so thank you very much, I appreciate that. The other question that I have is there any status update on the recruitment for a social worker in the police department?
Oh,
Thank you.
yeah. I was so overwhelmed by gas tax, I forgot. This actually came from an interview. We had our 3rd interview, a 3rd different candidate, and I think the process is winding down. That's what I can say, Maureen. We've had 3 great candidates so far. 3 great interviews. And I would hope that at the next meeting I can give you a specific response.
I'll be listening, thanks a lot.
I also forgot to say real quick that Thursday is the last household hazardous waste day of the cycle. And it's at the Tufton Borough Transfer Station this Thursday, 2 to 6 p.m. And anybody from Tamworth, we pay to let you do this, so you should do this. You can take 10 gallons or 50 pounds of household hazardous waste. If you need to know what that includes or doesn't include, you can go to the Lakes Region Planning Commission website.
Probably won't take my 245T. Okay. Signature file. Make motion to approve the select board meeting minutes dated September 16th, 2025.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Did you say yes?
Barry, yes.
Prentice, yes.
Roberts, yes.
Make a motion to approve the 2025 MS1.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Did you say yes?
Barry, yes.
Prentice, yes.
Roberts, yes.
Just checking. No payroll? No.
no, not this week.
Okay.
Well, there's payroll, but Michaela was under finance training, so she couldn't, but the payroll goes without your signature,
Okay.
so that's okay. No AP.
Okay. I make a motion to adjourn at 6:18 p.m.
Been juicing tomorrow?
Yeah, it's supposed to be at 7 o'clock in the morning, but
Okay.
it's not possible there. And I'm like, oh, yeah,
Good night, everybody on Zoom.
I'm kind of busy, kind of short-handed, so I'm like, all right, we'll just keep it around for another day.
Oh, is it a girl?
No,
Oh, you don't know? I thought you didn't
Keep
know,
it
yeah.
in for another day.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I
Okay.
was like, sweet. So she has to call tomorrow late in the morning and see which one they can get her.
Oh my
The
god.
actual presentation slides.
Yeah.
We're both ready at this point.
Yeah. Well, my.
Is it really good? Oh, thank you.
Like the last weeks of pregnancy depression.
Appreciate that.
Strep or whatever it is.
I'll put it on the website.
And like you always have it naturally clean, but if you have it.
I feel so bad that it wasn't shared on my screen.
Yep.
So, my water broke